This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by T-Mobile. Coming up, we check out a cool little downloadable title called Bastion.
Talking about the debut game from Supergiant Games called Bastion. It is a summer of arcade downloadable game. You know, the summer of arcade the last few years has been a showcase for some of the best and brightest of these downloadable games. And Bastion comes out, if not today, maybe tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this. I think it's the 20th it comes out. Anyway, it is, as I said, the first game from Supergiant Games, which is a brand new company started by a former video game reviewer, Greg Kasavin, who, these guys are passionate about these games. It's a very small team. Bastion is a really unique game, and I think their stated goal is to create games that they loved growing up, the kinds of feelings you got when you were playing a game when you were a kid. And Bastion, you play the kid who wakes up one day after this horrible, terrible event has happened in his world, and he sort of has to piece it back together chunk by chunk by going through these levels. The game is played in a top-down perspective, three-quarter perspective. It's got a very beautiful art style, looks very hand-painted and painterly, really. And you are collecting various weapons throughout the game, fighting enemies, and you rebuild the Bastion by instituting these new areas that you can go to that let you upgrade things or drink potions that provide...
Add to your abilities, sort of RPG style.
Exactly.
Very RPG light, but...
There's several different arenas that you can do, 3 different arenas you can do, and you can add these idols to the main game or to the arenas to make things more difficult. A lot of replayability here, but a pretty substantial single-player campaign as well. Dan, tell me what you thought of Bastion.
Well, we all were this is a highly anticipated game for us because we'd seen it at PAX and at E3 and always impressing us. And it really lived up to the hype I had set for it. You know, I love one of the features of the game is there's this constant narration by what would be probably, if I were to ever see him in real life, I picture Clint Eastwood or Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I was going to say, somebody in a long
the man
coat.
with no name.
Yeah.
The hero from a spaghetti western, essentially. And who you actually do see in the game and doesn't look anything like the voice, but that's okay.
And it's not just narration like you would get in a story, it's narrating what you are doing, moment to moment.
The kid wakes up, he walks to the door. He likes that weapon.
Well, but
he uses it a lot.
It's not.
He's using it too much
it's
now.
It's not 100% of that. It's full narration of the story with that peppered in.
Yeah.
Because that gives it a little bit of a that could get annoying.
Right.
It doesn't get annoying.
But I love having companions in games. I mentioned that when we talk about Prince of Persia and even the Uncharted games. When I have like a buddy who's like commenting who I feel like I'm on the journey with, who's very funny and like interesting anyway, I love having that. I love the art style. It actually reminded me of the quality, this is a weird reference, but the quality of the animation in Darkstalkers. Am I saying that right? Darkstalkers, the fighting game?
Yeah, the Capcom
that was like,
3D.
yeah, but there was a quality to the animation that was sort of like Dragon's Lair-y, anime-ish.
Don Bluth-y kind of?
Yeah, there is a quality to the way this art moves that is like that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. The combat system is phenomenal. It made me realize something that lesser combat systems in games, when one thing works well and other things don't, if the melee weapon works well and the dodge mechanic doesn't, all you do throughout that game is you just use melee. You never use dodge.
Yeah.
This game, everything works so wonderful. The long-range weapon worked awesome. The short-range weapon worked awesome. It was very satisfying. And my dodge mechanics worked great. So I always felt in every scenario there was a number of ways. Like I just felt like a guy who was in the thick of it, and I could really figure out how to get out, how to fight my way out of it, because everything worked the way I wanted it to.
Add in the special powers that you can swap in and out, and all of the different ranged weapons,
There's
and all the
so
different
many
melee
weapons.
and all their upgrades. It's
Plenty of
amazing.
carrots on the stick.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, this may very well be my favorite downloadable game I've ever played. I could not put this game down. And not only that, the narration made me realize that my barrier to entry for games, if somebody is telling me the story, it is so much easier for me to get engrossed and wrapped up into the story than if I have to read text. And in downloadable games, I mean, it's one guy basically reading quest information and well-written quest information, but even games like, what was the chicken game where you threw chickens?
Death
Spank.
Yeah.
Hysterical stuff was
chicken
happening
game.
in there, but I would just, it's so hard for me to connect to it because I have to sit there and read it all, and I'm like, this is not how I want to do this. It was so seamless in this game. At the end of the game, there are two choices that you get presented with that are sort of big choices, and one of them leads to one of the most emotionally impactful moments in a video game that I've ever experienced.
But I agree with you.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a sense of what I was really deciding.
I totally agree with that. But we'll talk about that after we stop taping for an hour. But I did want to say, I agree, the combat system, the way that the weapons are revealed to you, each weapon has its own desire, choosing which weapons to use, unbelievable. The fact that you can then go into these arenas and challenge yourself based on every single weapon, super fun. Building the Bastion in the way that you want to build it, upgrading it in the order that you want to build it, all of this stuff was amazing. And it was a great story. I mean, it was a sort of emotionally impactful, sort of fun sci-fi story, which I really loved. It's great, amazing game.
I'm just going to piggyback on what you guys have said. I think if Portal 2 hadn't come out this year, this would be my sort of game of the year up to this point, I think. It is that good. And they really capture those things that I love about games. Now, you guys are absolutely spot on to highlight the mechanics of the combat system. I cannot say enough cannot be said among the three of us about how perfectly tuned the combat system is and how much it means to the quality of this game. It reminds me of how people play stuff like Ninja Gaiden or these games where there's a purity in how you approach a fight. And as we have mentioned, there are these arenas that you can fight in. There's 3 dreams that you can take part in that feature different enemies from different phases of the game. And you can keep adding these idols on to make it more difficult, giving them more of an advantage over you, and you can do different combinations of said idols. And I would never really kind of do that in a game usually, because usually that's just leads to frustration, or if it's not a co-op horde mode, I'm not really interested in waves of enemies. I was addicted. After I finished the single player, I went back and back and back and tried to load on all the idols I could and see if I could handle it. And it's because the combat system is sublime. As you guys have said, there are so many different weapons, but each of them has their own strengths and weaknesses. You find ones that you like the most. You can upgrade them in the way you want. The responsiveness of the controls is spot on. You do whenever I died, and I died a lot in these arenas because I made it hard for myself. Whenever I died, I never thought it was for any other reason other than I made the wrong decision at that moment. And that says everything in video games. I never was frustrated. I mean, I was challenged like crazy because you can make it as hard as you want. Yes, I think the story is a little bit of style over substance.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's very poetic, and it's like, well, what are they really talking about?
Yeah.
But beautiful.
Yeah.
Art, I cannot overstate how beautiful the art is in this game.
The narration really is the big, I mean,
it's great, it adds a ton, and I hope they add downloadable content. I hope there's more stuff to do, because I don't want to stop playing this game. I find it absolutely enthralling, so much fun, and there are lots of ways that, like, I've never cared about leaderboards before. I was like on the leaderboards trying to rank up. And so many awesome different kinds of weapons.
2 other people you're competing with.
There was 50. There were 50 people who had the game, by the way. And I'm number 1. Anyway, but yeah,
I had a bit of an issue with the weapons that you get at the very end of the game. You get these ultra high-powered weapons that I didn't find useful in any way. Maybe it was. In fact, the last moment, I was using the one before the mortar thing, which was better than the cannon. It does the same thing as cannon. Plus, I had leveled up by the cannon. Maybe
personally,
I like it more. Because you could, well, anyway. But in the very last level, you get this like something even more, but
What about
just kind of doing it? Like there was no.
Well, but that to me,
I couldn't even roll it. That was
me,
sort of like the end story moment.
I felt like that was.
It's like the end of Half-Life 2 when you get the blue gun. It's not really about that.
But I wanted more. Now I finally honed in. My stuff was leveled the way I wanted it to. Now I want to be
arenas, dude.
I know. It's just I just kind of want to like
DLC,
decimate.
baby.
I thought you would be freaking out about the fact that in the last level you get a traversal skill.
Yeah, that's another thing. I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
I wanted because I wanted that to be fully explored. There could have been
wanted that
really
to be able
interesting
to
puzzles to solve with that.
Well, I was hoping that would be a way for you to replay the game and get to areas that you couldn't before.
Ooh.
Which maybe you can. Yeah.
So
Amazing.
good. Not an expensive game. Downloadable only. Congratulations, Supergiant Games.
Yeah.
We really like it.
Epic. All right, everybody, be sure to stick around for This Day in Rad History, but first we want to thank our sponsor, T-Mobile. T-Mobile's great selection of tablets, laptop sticks, and their new mobile hotspots
That thing is rad.
give you the freedom to stay connected with a high-speed internet on the go. Affordable high-speed internet where and when you want without overages. Mobile broadband data plans start at $29.99 a month, and current T-Mobile voice customers save an additional 20% off. Now you can create your own personal hotspot on the go with this bad mamma jamma, the T-Mobile 4G Hotspot mobile hotspot. There's one extra hotspot because of how fast it goes. Get high-speed internet on up to 5 Wi-Fi devices, laptops, tablets, music players, gaming devices, and more using a single mobile broadband connection. 4G capable with theoretical speeds of up to 21 megabits a second.
Wow. Hotspot.
Booyah. With the mobile hotspot from T-Mobile, you can share the largest, you can share the power of America's largest 4G network.
Hotspot.
TM. T-Mobile provides mobile broadband services and allows on-the-go wireless high-speed internet through your choices of portable devices. Amazing. Go get it. I'm gonna be using this sucker hotspot. If you had a breast pocket. Check it out. All right, people. That is it for this week's days.
I hope to see you at Comic-Con. We will be there.
No, I'm just kidding. We all hope to see you at Comic-Con.
We do.
And come over and say hi.
Yeah.
No big whoop.
Don't miss tomorrow's show for a review of the Captain America comic book.
Today is July 19th, and on this day in Rad History, in 1985, Universal Pictures re-releases E.T.
The E-Tizzles?
Makes $8.8 million within the first 3 days. So, you guys may not, I mean, this only happened again recently with Avatar, was re-released in theaters. Back in the day, before home video cassette.
No,
Yeah.
well,
And
I remember the big controversy was, is E.T. going to be released on VHS? And they said no. No, it's not. And VHS was just coming into its own, and all these movies are being released on VHS. E.T., they said, we're not going to be releasing it, and they re-released it in theaters instead.
Crazy. But still, even in those days, movies were in theaters for almost a full year.
Yep.
And not only that, but because people wanted to see them again, because you couldn't just watch a thing when you wanted to see it, you would have to bring it back into the theaters and make more money off of it that way.
And $8.8 million in 85.
Nothing to sneeze at.
In 3 days. In 3 days.
Yeah.
So thank you at Hjalti for sending that in.
Did you get a pronunciation?
We did. We got a pronunciation.
Hjalti. Interesting.